this part here starts to get tricky. We're going to pull out some thread. I'm going to pull out a piece about 20 inches long or so, something like that. Cut it off, and I'm going to tie a slip knot on the end here and leave a little bit, about 2 or 3 inches of extra loose string on the end of that slip knot. 3 inches probably, maybe 4. Then I'm going to pull it down relatively tight here, tight enough before it breaks. I don't want to break the string. Now this knot is the hardest part of this whole thing. I don't know if you can see this very well or not. Okay, I'm going to take my 2 fingers, hold a little loop like this. All I've got is a slip knot tied around this end right now. I'm taking these 2 fingers or whatever, holding a little loop, and I lay it back across the hair, and then I just start wrapping it inside the loop, just back towards the vise. And I'm going to wrap it about 9 or 10 times. Okay, then once you get that wrapped like that, hopefully you can see what I just did. So I've got a whole bunch of wrappings on this end. It's just a slip knot on this end. Now I'm going to take and lay the loose end of this that I just wrapped back across here, put it through I'm just going to lay it through the jaws of the vise. It'll keep it out of my way that way. And now I start wrapping this right back over the top of itself. And even the loose end that I left on that slip knot, I'm going to pull it back this way, and I'm going to wrap right over the top of it. And by doing it this way, I'm unwrapping it at the left end, and I'm wrapping it over the tops of both of those lines. And you keep wrapping until you've unwrapped everything you wrapped the first time. If that makes any sense to you. Okay, then I've got the loose end here that I laid in the vise in, and I can pull it tight now, and it'll pull the rest of that string back underneath what I just wrapped. I've got the other loose end, and that pulls it tight from the other end. So both ends now are pulling tight on all those wrappings that I just did. So all the loose ends of the thread are underneath all those little tight wrappings. Now I'm going to slide this back up here to close to where the glue is, and I just pull it a little bit more. I don't want to pull too much because I don't want to break it. And now I'm going to take these 2, and this you don't really need to do. You can just cut this off, but I've just been, for the sake of sanity here, I've just been retying a double knot in those 2 ends. That ties it over the top of that string. Just keeps it from peace of mind that it's not going to come loose. Then you take these little very sharp scissors and you just snip those off pretty close to the knot. You can see I've got a very tight little knot there around the thread. Now I'm going to cut through this up here. I've got to be very careful that I don't cut any of my thread. I'm just cutting through the hair, getting rid of the metal and the glue. And you can see that's the first cut, and it's really got quite a bit sticking out past the knot. Now I'm going to trim that back to where it's just barely past the knot. It looks like that'll work. I try to get it where there's just between a 16th and an 1/8 past the knot. If you can see that now. Now I'm going to take my white glue and I'm going to coat this whole end, especially the very end. And I'm going to coat the knot and all the thread with the white glue. But nothing past the thread. I don't really want to get it down on the actual hair, just on the thread and the end, very tip end. And you want it coated pretty good. As you can see, I've got quite a bit of coating on there. Now we're going to take the flame and we're going to hold it like so, right to the very tip end of the hair. Not going to touch the threads. And that's another reason you want to coat the threads, is so that you don't burn them. You can see what you've ended up with there. Very good knot of hair at the end. We're going to be working on the tip end of the bow now, and we're going to get this hair down in here. They put the tip in the frog end first. I don't do it that way, and I learned it from a book to do it this other way. I find this to be a pretty good way. It seems to work pretty well, gives me good results. So this is the way I do it. I'm not sitting here telling you this is the only way. I'm not trying to tell you you have to do it this way. I'm just telling you this is my way. And first thing we're going to do is we're going to bend that knot back really hard. I'm bending it back as tight as I can bend it back with my fingers. Right at the end of the knot. Right where the hair goes into the knot. Okay, then I take that knot and I lay it in the bottom, that flat where I've bent it like that, and then I put this plug of wood back in here. So I'm going to put that piece of wood back in there that I took out. It's actually intact enough to reuse. Push that wood down in there pretty tight. And it's in there pretty good. What I'm going to do is make a little piece of wood that I can lay on top of this. Then I'm just going to cut it to make it match that hole pretty good. In this case I'm going to use the chisel, just chisel it off. I'm going by eye, and that fits almost perfectly. So what I'm going to do then, I'm going to put a drop of super glue right on top of the other piece of wood without getting it in this hair. Put this in there. And use my little pusher and push it down in there good and tight. And I'm just going to put a little bit of super glue around the cracks of this to hold it in place. Take a little towelette, wipe up any extra. And I'm actually going to use my accelerator and spray it right here just to get it to dry really fast, that super glue. And that'll hold that in there. That should work just fine. But I found out it is way easier to comb the knots out of this hair while it's dry and then wet it down. You will want to wet it down, but it combs out much, much, much easier dry. So I'm going to comb it out dry first. You can straighten it out and comb it out dry much easier. And I'm not kidding, it's like 100 times easier. It will take you forever if you wet this down to comb it out. I used to spend 15-20 minutes combing this out. Now I'm already got it combed out. I basically can bring the comb right through it already. You can see how fast that was. I just can comb right through it, no problem at all. And if I'd have wet that down, I guarantee you I'd have been 15 more minutes minimum. Okay, once you get it really combed out straight, and the idea is you want all the hairs perfectly straight. Now wet it down. I'm dipping my comb in this water, and I'm going to apply it to the hair. I used to just dip the hair in there, but it makes it loose and it'll get all raveled up and knotted up again. So it's just easier just to comb. Put a lot of water on this, you'll get sloppy, it's going to fall on the floor and all that, makes a mess, but this is a much easier method than the other way. And why do you do that? Well, that helps get all the looseness out of the hair, makes it one little tight, straight bundle. Everything needs to be tight and straight, no looseness in the hair at all. And this kind of makes it all stick together and works pretty good. Once you get it combed out this direction, and here's going to be another trick with the camera because I've only got so many hands, you got to turn it over, keep it flat. You want to keep it completely flat, but see how it bulged up here now? So I've got to straighten all that out this other direction. I'm going to still use water, and I'm going to comb it flat this direction. Okay. Alright, we've got it pretty well done now, I think. The frog needs to go as far towards the tip as possible. So I've got it all the way in the slot. I've got it as far as it can go. Now I'm ready to mark this. So I'm going to take my left hand, hold this past the hole there. I'm going to take my marker, all with one hand, and I'm going to mark it about, by eye, approximately 1/4 of an inch or a little bit less past the end of that hole. Now that gives me a reference of where I want to tie my knot. So I'm pulling off some thread, again about the same amount of thread we pulled off the last time, probably about 20 inches is good. I'm going to do the same thing, tie a slip knot, leave 2 or 3 inches of loose thread on the end of the slip knot. Here's my slip knot, my loop. Like that, open it up. And before I actually use this, I'm going to comb this out one more time, get it back in my hand. I'm going to lay this down, get the hair back up in my hand, and I'm going to comb it one more time because I don't want to have any loose hairs. This is where you need to have 4 hands actually. 2 is just nowhere near good enough, but that's all you got, so you got to figure out how to make this work. So I'm going to put my slip knot over the hair and switch hands now, slide the knot down here. Now I'm going to pull the knot tight. Okay, so I've got the knot pulled fairly tight. It's never tight enough. Okay. Now this, again, this is where you just really don't have enough hands. I don't care how many hands you got, you don't have enough. Okay, I'm going to lay this, do the exact same thing, but this time I have to do it all freehand. I made a big loop here, and I'm pulling the thread back through the loop. Probably won't get as many knot loops through the loop as I did on the other one, but I'll get quite a few. I'm going to go one more for safety's sake here. Okay, pull it through. Now, I'm going to have to do all this by hand. I'm going to hold that loose, both ends. Well, actually, I'm going to try to do the same thing I did on the other one. I'm going to take the loose end of the slip knot and put it back that way. And now I'm going to start wrapping this end, and I'm unwrapping the other end as I'm wrapping this end. This end's unwrapping over here, and I'm wrapping this end and back over both of those loose end threads. Okay, pretty much got it there, that last little wrap right there. Now I've got the loose end of the thread here. I'm going to pull tight, start pulling it tight I should say. And I'm going to pull this other end for the slip knot, slide all the thread together right over my little black line basically. I'm pulling, again, I'm pulling the loose ends on both ends to get the knot just as tight as I can get it without breaking it, without breaking the thread. Again, I'm going to tie that extra double knot with the 2 loose ends. Don't really have to do this. This knot's a pretty good knot without this, but I'm just doing it for safety's sake. Okay, now I'm going to take those 2 loose ends, cut them off as short as I can cut them off pretty much with the scissors. Okay, and I'm still trying to keep this flat thing in one orientation. I'm trying not to twist the thread, the hair.